Hello, my name is Mumba Dodwell. I am 27 years old and I am an early careers freelance director and actor. Just also put a time frame on that. So I have been acting for around 5 years. I graduated from Arts University Bournemouth with the BA in acting. And I have been directing for 2.5 years. So I'm fairly new to this industry. I am also a co-founder of the Diversity School Initiative, which Tracy has been supportive of, which is really great and wonderful. A non-profit organisation that was set up to hold drama schools accountable for diversity and inclusivity in training. And I'm also a freelance, a member of the freelance task force, and that role has been supported by the National Youth Theatre. I'm really glad to hear there is a lot of conversation around freelancers and looking after them. That's really pleasing to me, because I think that I was really concerned about us in this economy and in this time. So I am here as a young voice and an early careers member. Also, I would just like to say that 72% of the industry is made up of freelancers. And the effects of COVID have been widespread, with freelancers losing jobs up until 2021, and some being lucky with organisations like myself who have had their contracts honoured for the time period when the pandemic hit. But others have not been, and those on 0-hour contracts, such as lecturers in drama schools and visiting freelancers, are worried about their future. They're uncertain. And this has been particularly hard hitting on those who identify as early careers. They've fallen through the gaps. As Julian mentioned, they did not qualify for the self-employed income support scheme or the job retention scheme or any other emergency funding grants supported by the Arts Council. And in the COVID-19 Routes to Recovery, an evidence-based study for the freelance theatre workforce, it states that 1 in 3 freelancers have expressed they feel like leaving the industry, which is of deep concern, as 86% of freelancers within the theatre workforce identify as Black, Asian, and/or coming from a minority ethnic group. So it's really paramount that these people have access to the funds. The pandemic has also brought about shorter contracts for freelancers, and this makes us feel uncertain because we don't know when theatres are going to open up again. Some theatres have moved to digital platforms, which has been great and fundamental in keeping our mental health and keeping us as freelancers engaged, as well as our audiences. However, the scale of work is not the same, both in numbers and financially. So we can't predict how much we're earning over the year. I had work until the new year, and I had thought I was going to be financially viable, but that's been difficult, and all our amenities are still remaining the same, our bills, everything else. As well as some other things which have been brought up in this meeting is that the impacts of COVID-19 has brought about unstable living conditions and homelessness. Graduates and freelancers who were between homes during the outbreak of the pandemic have found themselves in very worrying situations due to their contracts being terminated for the unforeseeable future. Several freelancers have relocated and moved out of London, and with the nature of the virus, freelancers are finding that they cannot stay in London with friends or colleagues due to safety, and so find themselves in limbo. Earlier this week, I met with the National Youth Theatre Associates, and these artists regularly work with the National Youth Theatre, and this is an organisation whose livelihood depend on the diversity of these freelancers staying in the industry. The associates comprise of set designers, lighting designers, movement directors, stage managers, dramaturgs, directors, writers, and more. And speaking to them was really good for me to understand how the different sectors of our industry are being affected. For example, stage managers if they have no venues opened, they cannot work. And there is no work for stage managers. So I think they are one of the areas in which we need to support. So I'm going to just draw upon some statistics from the COVID-19 Route to Recovery study that came out of a Brig freelancer survey. And yeah, so I'm going to draw upon that and some of the stuff that I had spoken to from the associates to understand where people fell through the gaps. So some of those, like myself, were eligible for the self-employed scheme, and others for the job retention scheme. And it's been really great because it's provided a cushion, it's given us some time to think and prepare and move in this industry. Though 1 in 3 freelancers had no support from any of these said schemes. and 1 in 4 freelancers were unable to access emergency income of any kind. And this is due to numerous different factors, but the main things that came up were those who did not receive 50% of their income via self-employed work could not apply. As Julian mentioned, those who were doing PAYE work, as well, to subsidize and go back and forth, were not able to claim on either side, from PAYE or from the self-employed income support scheme. And also those who are early careers and recent graduates had not been registered as self-employed for 3 years, and so did not qualify for these schemes. And I think that what was really interesting was the communities and the intersectionality of these who were affected worse than any other communities were: early career theatre makers, deaf and disabled theatre workers, and people of colour. When discussing who had access to the emergency funds via Arts Council, freelancers indicated that the scheme was still project-based at the time. And during this time of uncertainty, where we cannot guarantee venues and dates and seed funds, these communities did not apply. And freelancers welcome and celebrate the 1.57 billion incentive. And we urge the government to make sure this is spread across the sector and includes freelancers. And I understand extending this self-employed income support scheme is not financially viable. However, there needs to be a scheme in place if there's going to be a second wave or the prolonged opening of theatres. With the incentive of 1.57 billion being pushed into theatres, it's important that theatres creates a plan. And I think that we as freelancers would like to be in the room at the table when these plans are made, and how theatres plan to open and what they're doing in the meantime, integrating in-house projects. So what other projects are they doing, and what other digital projects are happening that freelancers can get involved in and paid for. And we also express, as freelancers, we would like to engage with theatres to make sure that we are upskilling during this time, because some of us are suddenly out of the sector, and this is a great time to upskill ourselves. Most importantly, freelancers, as I said, want to be at the table. They want to be in the discussions about how the funds are being distributed. We want to be in the conversations with SALT, Arts Council and Equity. So that's really important for us. And this is vital in the sustainability of diversity of freelancers and early career artists, as currently 82% of permanent staff in the theatre workforce identify as white. Recently, the Old Vic, in their document Pull Up or Shut Up, hashtag Pull Up or Shut Up, published that 6% of their staff were Asian and or mixed Black heritage background, while 0% of their senior staff members were of colour, which is very concerning. So it's really paramount that freelancers, and particularly those of colour, are present, as they will become the next wave of permanent staff. There is a huge diversity coming through into the industry, and so that is really vital that they are given time and money to stay in the career and earn their stripes. I think that's what's really important. So we push that there's some money put aside for freelancers that did not qualify for the self-employed scheme or the COVID job retention scheme. Those are the people who need it most. Those being emerging artists and early career artists, people of colour, and deaf and disabled artists. This emergency funds also need to be provided for an area that we have not considered yet: artists who have had the virus and are currently recovering. I became very aware at the National Youth Theatre that some people and associates had the virus, and so were not feeling fit and ready to go back to work, and so did not know how they were going to support themselves. So we need a contingency for artists as well, who inevitably need to shield for longer than the rest of the country due to their needs. We encourage that the government push Arts Council to make that application as well accessible and not project-based, but more means-based, with a priority to support those who are vulnerable. In terms of moving post-COVID and working, exiting the EU, what freelancers would really like is that to express that international collaboration is paramount for the development and progression of British theatre and artists. We want freelancers also at these tables and conversations to talk about how they can be part of this next phase of our industry. We also want to know how the free movement is going to happen, or movement of artists such as freelancers between the UK and Europe may happen, as this is important for our networks and developing our career. Overall, I think that the main thing that is vital is supporting artists of colour and supporting freelancers in early careers, and having an emergency funding pot for them, which can specifically them and those who did not those who did not receive the self-employed income support scheme, and freelancers wanting to be at the table, at the decision making. That would be really, really what we need to see happen. So thank you very much. That's all I have to say on that.